The business world is overflowing with plans, strategies, and step-by-step formulas. Everywhere you look, there are blueprints promising success, frameworks that claim to guarantee growth, and strategies polished to perfection. They are beautifully presented, packaged in books, webinars, and seminars, all pointing to the idea that once the right strategy is in hand, everything else will fall into place. But here lies the hidden reality. Strategy alone will never scale a business. Strategy without force is a lifeless map. It shows the route but does not move the vehicle. It paints the destination but never takes the first step toward it. What most fail to realize is that strategy is nothing but a structure on paper. It does not breathe, does not push, and it does not fight for survival. People sit with their perfectly outlined strategies waiting for the right time, the right resources, or the right conditions, believing that preparation equals progress. But progress is not born out of preparation. It is born out of action, and action requires fire. Without the energy that fuels movement, even the most brilliant strategy becomes a cage, trapping potential in endless cycles of thinking without doing. Look closely at those who never rise beyond mediocrity in their business. It is not because their ideas lacked brilliance or because their strategies were weak. Many of them had extraordinary concepts, unique approaches, even innovative models that could have changed entire industries, yet they never scaled. Their plans collected dust, their vision faded, and their businesses stalled. Why? Because strategy is not the force that propels growth. It is only the skeleton. It is rigid, fragile, and incomplete without the muscle of relentless execution and the heartbeat of unwavering courage. The world is full of abandoned strategies that looked flawless on paper, but died in silence because no one brought them to life. It is full of plans that could have revolutionized markets, but instead ended up buried under fear, hesitation, and the addiction to planning instead of acting. The truth that cuts deep is this: scaling is never about having the perfect plan. It is about having the unstoppable energy to breathe life into even the most imperfect one. This is why so many people are stuck. They polish their strategies over and over again, tweaking, refining, perfecting. They think of every possibility, every contingency, every scenario, but perfection kills momentum. While they are adjusting their plans, others with far less polished strategies are out there moving, building, testing, failing, learning, and winning. The marketplace does not reward the one with the prettiest plan. It rewards the one with the fiercest execution. Strategy gives direction, yes, but it does not supply momentum. It outlines possibilities, but it does not create breakthroughs. Breakthroughs are born from boldness, from taking action without waiting for conditions to align, from refusing to let uncertainty dictate the pace. The irony is that the very thing people chase, certainty through strategy, becomes the very thing that prevents them from growing. They cling to their strategy as a shield, believing it will protect them from mistakes. But mistakes are the raw material of growth, and without them, scaling is impossible. There are businesses today operating at massive scale, not because their initial strategies were revolutionary, but because their leaders dared to move, to risk, to persist, and to adapt along the way. They understood that a flawed plan executed with full force is infinitely more powerful than a perfect plan sitting still. Scaling is not a test of intellectual brilliance. It is a test of emotional resilience, of relentless drive, of an energy so powerful it makes the plan itself bend and evolve to fit the journey. The harshest truth is that no one remembers the strategy. People remember the results. They remember the impact, the disruption, the transformation. Strategy is invisible, execution is undeniable. Scaling is not achieved by crafting the perfect diagram of how success will unfold. It is achieved by relentlessly creating success step by step, action by action, day by day, until the strategy becomes irrelevant compared to the reality that has been built. And so the first barrier must be shattered, the illusion that strategy holds the key. Strategy alone is empty. It is the spark without fire, the map without motion, the idea without courage. Scaling begins the moment that truth is accepted. It begins when the obsession with plans ends and the obsession with power begins. Because business does not rise on strategy. It rises on force. It rises on will. It rises on the unshakable decision to turn paper into reality, no matter the cost. The most dangerous trap in business is not failure. It is the illusion of progress. And nothing feeds this illusion more than strategy. Strategy feels powerful. It feels productive. It convinces the mind that momentum is being created when, in truth, the ground beneath is still unmoved. People pour hours into perfecting spreadsheets, adjusting models, and crafting pitch decks. They create detailed forecasts and polish funnels, believing that each new layer of planning brings them closer to growth. But it doesn't. It only keeps them safe in the comfort of preparation while laying the only thing that creates results. Execution illusion is subtle and seductive. It whispers that the work being done today, writing, revising, preparing, will one day blossom into success. It tricks the entrepreneur into believing that by thinking harder, planning more carefully, and waiting for just the right alignment of circumstances, they are inching closer to scale. Yet the truth is, brutal strategy without action is a performance for the self. It is a way of feeling busy without ever being effective. It gives the sense of movement without actual movement, a mirage that leads straight into stagnation. What makes the illusion so dangerous is how convincing it feels. Strategy provides certainty in a world of uncertainty. It allows the mind to create a plan instead of confronting the chaos of reality. It acts as a shield against fear, because as long as one is planning, there is no need to face the risk of failure. But in protecting against failure, strategy also shields against growth. Scaling does not happen in safe spaces. It happens in the chaos of markets, in the discomfort of risk, in the uncertainty of untested action. Strategy alone keeps people rehearsing while others are already performing. Look at the countless businesses that never rise past survival. They are not starved for strategy. They are drowning in it. They have overthought every move, every risk, every possibility. Their energy is consumed by analysis. But analysis without execution is paralysis. Meanwhile, those who scale do not hide behind the illusion. They know that strategy is useful only when paired with speed. They know that clarity comes through action, not before it. They understand that no matter how brilliant a plan appears, it will break the moment it collides with reality. And instead of fearing that collision, they welcome it because each break leads to adaptation and each adaptation leads to growth. The illusion of strategy also feeds the addiction to perfection. Plans are revised endlessly, visions polished repeatedly, and launches delayed indefinitely, all in pursuit of a flawless starting point. But perfection is a mask for fear. It is the mind's way of avoiding risk while pretending to prepare. No business has ever scaled by waiting for perfection. The businesses that scale are led by people who move before they are ready, who start before the plan is finished, who trust themselves to adapt faster than others can prepare. They know that success belongs not to the perfect strategist, but to the relentless executor. And here lies the harsh truth: the world does not reward ideas. It rewards impact. The best idea in the world, locked inside endless strategy sessions, is worthless. A mediocre idea driven into the marketplace with relentless energy can create empire. History does not celebrate those who planned perfectly. It celebrates those who acted decisively. The illusion blinds so many into believing that success is built in the safety of planning rooms, but in reality, it is forged in the fire of risk, rejection, and resilience. Breaking free from the illusion of strategy requires courage. It demands admitting that endless preparation is a form of hiding. It forces a choice to continue to polish a plan that will never breathe or step into the uncertainty where growth actually happens. The illusion promises safety, but scaling is not safe. Scaling is chaotic, unpredictable, and raw. It requires energy that no amount of planning can replace. Those who continue to chase strategy without action will always remain stuck in the rehearsal stage of their vision. They will always be the ones talking about what could have been, showing plans that never lived, regretting the time lost to an illusion. But those who choose to break the illusion will step into a reality where progress is visible, momentum is undeniable, and results compound with force. Strategy is a tool, but it is not the answer. The illusion is believing it is enough. It never has been, and it never will be. There is a force far greater than any business strategy ever written. A force that decides whether a plan gathers dust or reshapes an industry. This force is not found in polished documents or step-by-step frameworks. It is found in raw energy and relentless execution in the unstoppable will to make things move. Strategy may provide direction, but it is power, the human power, that creates momentum. Without this power, even the most brilliant plan is worthless. With it, even a flawed plan can transform into something unstoppable. The truth is simple. Businesses do not scale because of plans on paper. They scale because of leaders who refuse to stop moving forward. Strategy without energy is like a ship without wind. It may be beautifully designed, but it will never leave the harbor. Energy, drive, and conviction are the winds that carry strategy into reality. They give it speed, they give it motion, they give it life. And without life, strategy is nothing more than dead ink. What scales a business is not intellectual brilliance alone. It is emotional force. It is the hunger to keep going when every door slams shut. It is the discipline to execute the same actions over and over, long after the excitement has faded. It is the willingness to risk everything on a vision that others dismiss. Strategy cannot provide that hunger, that discipline, that risk-taking spirit. It is the individual who brings it, the leader who refuses to surrender, the team that decides to give everything they have and more. Think of the businesses that dominate their industries. Their strategies were not always flawless at the start. Many began with broken models, with incomplete ideas, with shaky beginnings. But what carried them through was energy so powerful it refused to die. Every failure became fuel. Every obstacle became a test of strength. Every setback became a chance to prove resilience. The force behind the plan was what made the plan work, not the other way around. This is why so many entrepreneurs fail to scale. They pour everything into designing the perfect plan, but almost nothing into developing the power required to bring it alive. They forget that success is not a puzzle solved with clever pieces. It is a battle won with relentless determination. Scaling is not an intellectual exercise. It is a test of spirit, courage, and execution. Power beyond the plan is the courage to make bold decisions when fear screams louder than logic. It is the resilience to keep building when failure feels unbearable. It is the ability to stand tall when rejection is constant, when doubts surround you, when the world says no. That power cannot be bought, copied, or downloaded. It must be built. It must be forged in the fire of action, in the discipline of daily execution, in the willingness to suffer for a vision no one else can see. And here lies the critical truth. Momentum creates scale, not strategy. Momentum is built by movement, by action that compounds day after day. A small action repeated with energy builds into unstoppable momentum. Momentum attracts people, resources, and opportunities. It creates a gravitational pull that strategy alone can never generate. The ones who scale understand this. They don't wait for the perfect plan to create momentum. They create momentum and let it refine the plan. Power beyond the plan also means leadership, the ability to ignite others with vision and conviction. A strategy written on paper cannot inspire people, but energy can. Passion can. Unshakable belief can. Teams do not follow a document. They follow a leader who carries energy so strong that it lights up everyone around them. Scaling is not just about building systems. It is about building people who believe so deeply in a vision that they will move mountains to achieve it. That level of power cannot come from a plan. It comes from within. When energy meets strategy, results explode. When strategy stands alone, nothing happens. The difference between those who scale and those who stall is not the sophistication of their plans, but the force with which they act. Scaling requires turning paper into movement, ideas into reality. That transformation is powered by energy, by resilience, by conviction. So strategy may point the way, but power is what takes you there. Power is what breaks through walls, what endures the storm, what carries momentum when logic says to stop. Without power, strategy is silent. With power, even an imperfect plan becomes unstoppable. The greatest enemy of business growth is not competition, not market conditions, not even lack of resources. The greatest enemy hides within. The invisible barriers built from fear, doubt, hesitation, and self-imposed limits. These barriers are silent but suffocating. They disguise themselves as caution, as logic, as practicality, but in truth, they are walls of resistance holding back the very momentum needed to scale. And until these barriers are shattered, no amount of strategy can create lasting growth. Every entrepreneur, every leader, every visionary faces these barriers. They are the whispers in the mind that say, what if you fail? They are the weight in the chest that keeps you from making the bold call. They are the hesitation that slows your hand just before you take action. These barriers do not exist outside. They are born inside. They are constructed from years of conditioning, past failures, and the constant fear of rejection. And while strategy may point out the path forward, it does not have the strength to break these walls. Only courage can. Think about it. How many people like her plan yet never take the leap? How many sit with opportunities in their hands, but let them slip away because fear whispered louder than vision? Strategy cannot silence that fear. A roadmap cannot erase self-doubt. These invisible barriers are not intellectual problems. They are emotional prisons, and they are the single biggest reason why businesses stagnate, why visions die, why potential goes unrealized. The most dangerous thing about these barriers is their invisibility, because they are not seen, they are not challenged. People justify them with logic. The timing isn't right. I need more resources. I'll start when I have more clarity. But beneath those excuses lies the same root: fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of risk. The illusion of strategy often becomes the perfect disguise for these fears. People hide behind endless planning because it feels safer than confronting the walls inside themselves. But scaling demands war against these barriers. It demands tearing down the walls of hesitation, smashing through the doubts, and stepping forward even when certainty is absent. Scaling is not about waiting until fear disappears. It is about moving in spite of fear. It is about acting boldly when the voice in your head tells you to wait. It is about deciding that no internal wall will dictate the size of your business, your vision, or your life. And here's the truth most refuse to face. The market is not what limits growth. Mindset is. The competition is not what holds businesses down. It is self-sabotage, hesitation, and the refusal to move when movement matters most. Strategy cannot transform a fearful leader into a bold one. Strategy cannot replace resilience, courage, or conviction. These barriers can only be broken by sheer will, by choosing courage over comfort again and again until fear loses its grip. Breaking these invisible barriers changes everything. Once they fall, strategy finally has room to breathe. Execution becomes natural, momentum flows without friction, and growth accelerates. Confidence begins to compound with every action taken. Each risk embraced builds strength. Each failure survived builds resilience. Each bold decision chips away at the walls that once held everything back. Scaling is not about building a business on the outside while remaining trapped on the inside. It is about liberating yourself first. Because when the leader breaks free, the business follows. When courage replaces hesitation, opportunities open. When resilience replaces doubt, setbacks become stepping stones. When conviction replaces fear, scaling becomes inevitable. These barriers may feel immovable, but they are only as strong as the belief that sustains them. Fear is powerful only when obeyed. Doubt is crippling only when entertained. Hesitation has power only when given control. The moment they are challenged, the moment they are defied, they begin to crumble. And with each crack in the wall, momentum surges. The truth is undeniable. Scaling a business is less about external strategy and more about internal transformation. Break the walls within and no external barrier will hold you. Stay imprisoned behind them and no external strategy will save you. Growth begins when the invisible barriers fall, when the inner war is won, when courage becomes greater than fear. So ask what walls are still standing, what doubts still control the decisions, what fears still dictate the pace. Because until those barriers are shattered, scaling will remain a dream. But once they are destroyed, the dream becomes unstoppable reality. Scaling does not begin with the perfect strategy. It begins with a shift, a deep internal transformation that changes the way action is taken, decisions are made, and obstacles are faced. This shift is the dividing line between those who remain trapped in cycles of planning and those who rise into unstoppable growth. It is the moment when perfection is replaced by progress, when hesitation gives way to action, And when the search for safety is abandoned in exchange for relentless creation, the shift is not about doing more of the same. It is about changing the very foundation from which action is born. Most people operate from a place of caution. They ask themselves, what if I fail? What if I lose? What if I'm not ready? And from this mindset, every move is hesitant, every decision delayed, every opportunity questioned until it slips away. But the shift requires a new set of questions. What if I succeed? What if this works? What if I am stronger than I believe? The focus turns from fear to possibility, from loss to gain, from limits to potential. And with that single change in perspective, momentum begins to build. This is the shift that changes everything, moving from waiting to creating. Those who wait for the right time will always wait, because conditions are never perfect. The market will never stop shifting, competitors will never stop moving, and uncertainty will never disappear. But those who create despite imperfection generate opportunities where none existed before. They do not wait for doors to open. They build new doors, they break down walls, they carve their own path forward. Another layer of this shift is moving from comfort to courage. Comfort is seductive. It whispers that staying safe is wise, that avoiding risk is smart, that protecting what you have is more important than reaching for more. But comfort is the silent killer of growth. Scaling cannot exist in comfort zones. It thrives in the territory of risk, discomfort, and uncertainty. The shift is about embracing discomfort as the price of expansion, about recognizing that every level of growth demands a new level of pain, resilience, and risk-taking. This shift also requires abandoning perfection for momentum. Perfection is the endless excuse, the reason for delay, the mask for fear. It says, I'll start when the plan is flawless. I'll launch when the timing is right. I'll move when everything aligns. But nothing ever aligns perfectly, and in waiting for perfection, years are lost. Momentum is built by action, not by flawless conditions. The shift is deciding that imperfect action today is infinitely more valuable than perfect action tomorrow. Every imperfect step forward builds momentum, and momentum compounds into scale. Scaling is not a matter of who has the best resources. It is a matter of who executes with the greatest consistency, and consistency comes from the shift. It comes from choosing discipline over excuses, persistence over procrastination, and daily progress over occasional bursts of inspiration. The shift is not a one-time decision. It is a daily battle. Every day offers the temptation to fall back into comfort, hesitation, and perfection. And every day requires the decision to reject those temptations and move forward regardless. The shift also changes identity. It is not about simply doing more. It is about becoming more. Scaling requires becoming the kind of person who can carry growth, lead teams, handle setbacks, and hold the weight of success. Strategy does not change identity. Plans do not rewrite who you are. Only action executed with courage and consistency shapes a new identity. The shift is deciding to step into that identity now before the results appear. It is becoming the leader before the title, embodying resilience before the victory, living with certainty before the world believes. Once the shift happens, everything accelerates. Opportunities appear because action creates them. Resources flow in because momentum attracts them. People rally behind vision because energy ignites them. Growth compounds because movement never stops. The shift is the ignition point, the spark that transforms potential into reality, the decision that separates those who talk about scaling from those who actually achieve it. This shift cannot be half-made. It cannot be partial or conditional. It must be absolute. It must be the burning decision that comfort will never again dictate the limits of growth, that fear will never again silence action, that perfection will never again delay progress. It must be a full transformation from the inside out, because scaling is not given to those who hesitate. It is claimed by those who move with certainty. And here is the raw truth. Strategy alone will never create the shift. It cannot. The shift is not intellectual, it is mental, spiritual. It is the rebirth of perspective, the rewriting of identity, the recommend to courage. Once it happens, strategy becomes a tool, not a trap. It becomes a guide, not a cage. But without the shift, even the most brilliant strategy will collapse under the weight of fear and hesitation. The shift is everything. It is the turning point. It is the decision that marks the beginning of unstoppable scale. Without it, growth is a dream. With it, growth becomes inevitable. There comes a moment when preparation must end and movement must begin. A moment when no more strategies, no more discussions, and no more waiting will serve. That moment is now. Because the truth is this strategy will not scale a business. Energy will. Plans will not create impact. Action will. Theories will not build empires. Relentless execution will. And the longer the illusion of strategy is entertained, the longer growth remains trapped in silence. The choice is clear. Either remain in the safety of planning, endlessly polishing and perfecting, or ignite the fire that transforms plans into power. This fire is not a fleeting spark of motivation. It is a decision, a declaration, a commitment to act with such intensity that nothing can stand in the way. It is the fire that says, no more waiting, no more hesitation, no more fear. From this moment forward, every step will be bold, every move decisive, every action infused with unstoppable energy. This call is not gentle. It is not patient. It does not ask plotting demands. It demands that limits be broken, that excuses be destroyed, that comfort be abandoned. Because comfort will never deliver scale. Comfort is the cage that keeps businesses small, visions contained, and potential wasted. To scale is to burn the cage, to step into the unknown with certainty that the fire within is greater than any challenge outside. The world does not need another strategy. It needs action. It does not need more people hiding behind plans. It needs leaders willing to act without guarantees, to risk without certainty, to fight without knowing if the battle will be easy. Those who scale are not the ones who wait until conditions are perfect. They are the ones who create conditions through sheer willpower, resilience, and energy. So here is the call: stop preparing and start moving. Stop doubting and start deciding. Stop waiting for permission and start creating results so undeniable that no one can ignore them. The fire that scales a business is not found in research or in meetings. It is found in the relentless grind of execution, in the courage to take risks, in the resilience to rise after every fall. It is found in the refusal to stop until the vision becomes reality. This is not about someday, it is about today. Because someday is the lie that kills dreams. Someday is the word that convinces people they still have time, when in truth, every day of hesitation costs momentum, costs opportunity, costs growth. Scaling does not happen someday. It happens when a decision is made to act now, to move now, to ignite the fire now. Imagine what becomes possible when this fire is unleashed. Imagine the momentum that builds when every day is met with courage instead of hesitation, with action instead of excuses, with persistence instead of retreat. Imagine the compounding force of consistent execution, the unstoppable momentum of daily progress. That is how businesses scale, not in leaps of luck, but in relentless steps of action. And let this truth be carved deep. No one is coming to hand over success. No one is coming to give permission, to offer guarantees, to create certainty. Scaling belongs only to those who claim it, to those who decide that no barrier, no fear, no doubt, and no failure will ever again dictate their pace. To those who step in the fire willingly, knowing it will burn, but knowing it will also forge them into something unbreakable. This is the moment to decide, to ignite the fire within and let it consume hesitation, fear, and comfort. To rise with a force so undeniable that the world cannot look away. To act with such persistence that obstacles shatter under the weight of momentum. To create results so powerful that strategy becomes irrelevant compared to the energy that drives them. The fire is the difference between those who dream and those who do. Between those who plan and those who scale. Between those who talk about change and those who embody it. And the fire does not wait. It demands to be lit now. So light it, burn the excuses, break the limits, abandon the illusion that strategy alone is enough. Step into the fire of execution, of courage, of relentless energy. Because your business will not scale because of a plan. It will scale because of the unstoppable force you choose to become. And that force begins the moment the fire is ignited. That force begins now.